So small round plastic discs. You might know them as compact discs. You might think that they're a relic of the past, a relic from the 80s. But I'm here to tell you that they're not just a relic from the 80s. They're something that if you're seriously into music, you should start hoarding today. You know, CDs like this, standing jewel case. Look, it's $2.99, cheap. Like that, so a little background. Back in 1982, Philips and Sony, two electronic giants, and both unleashed the compact disc to the world. Initially in Japan, and later in 1983 to the European and North American markets. As you can see, I collect CDs. Look at this. I'm a hoarder. I'm guilty. And therefore, I should know about all of these little details about why you should buy CDs right now. Because I just ordered them. Like mad. So first, the compact disc is still relevant. First, I'm going to talk about what made it relevant in the first place, then, and the modern music and distribution systems that make it superior over those systems. And finally, a quick thing about how it's still relevant today, the benefits it still has today. So let's start with a bit of history. So this collaboration, according to Philips, first started in 1974, and eventually something happened. Something massive happened. Initially, the CD wasn't exactly a massive success right out of the door. Rather, it was a bit slow. It took years but eventually, demand began to outstrip supply so much that demand wasn't met by 1980, and demand and supply did not meet until 1987, according to Philips on their official website. But by 1988, 390 million CDs in total had been sold. And according to Jason Fry, a writer for the Wall Street Journal, 712 million in CDs were sold in 2001 alone, at the peak of CDs, which, in miniature conclusion, means that there are plenty of CDs to go around. There's plenty of them. There's plenty of supply. So now that I've talked about what made CDs so relevant in the first place, now I'm going to talk about the problems with today's distribution systems. According to David Lazarus, a consumer advocate for the LA Times, when you buy digital content, you don't actually own it. It's actually just licensed to you, which means that it can be taken away just as easily as you just purchased it. It's never actually yours. And at least with the CD, they can't just knock on your door and say, hey, we want it back. And another point is Eric Sherman, another writer, who says musicians may pull off their music off of streaming sites because and online music stores because as they may feel like they're not getting enough royalties, that their artistry is being cheapened because they're receiving pennies on the dollar for or streams, for millions and millions of streams, which would amount to like 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 $20 or much less. Because they don't have or they might argue about sound quality. All of these factors means that you can't exactly get them on that the current distribution system on the internet isn't as viable as having your own physical CD, where you'll always have that until someone goes into someone goes into your house and steals it, which is unlikely because they're undesirable now. Now that I talked about the problems of today's distribution system, I'm going to briefly touch on the present day advantages. You see, the CD it has some stuff not available on the internet, as I mentioned, and certain companies may take down certain videos on YouTube, which makes it highly difficult for you to easily access the music without having to use a subscription service, and we're pretty stingy, aren't we? But with CDs, you just buy it, you play it, pop it in your CD player at home or in your car, and that's it. And nothing more complex. We're still familiar with it. Now that I've briefly touched on its present day its stuff, let's quickly conclude. You see, the CD is still relevant. First, I talked about its present day. Its past sales, which make when it was relevant. Then I talked about the problem with today's musical system, and distribution system, and then finally I briefly touched on modern day the modern day benefits it has. So, in conclusion, really this time, if you consider yourself a true music fan, do start hoarding CDs right now.